I thought the other unit did some good things. They had a couple opportunities and just he misfired, didn't go in. They had some good chances, but our top unit didn't execute, didn't win any battles when they needed to. Just couldn't make plays.
This was not just another loss. The silence after the game carried more weight than the final score. Craig Berube spoke once, then refused to explain anything away. No excuses were offered, no names were hidden, and from that moment, the spotlight shifted in a way no one expected. The Toronto Maple Leafs were shut out 4-0 by the Washington Capitals. The result ended any doubt about control of the game. Toronto failed to score. Washington dictated the pace. The Maple Leafs did not generate sustained pressure, and their power play did not produce a goal. After the game, head coach Craig Berube addressed the media. His comments shifted the focus away from systems and toward effort.
We had power play opportunities. Power play was not good. It's got to be a lot better. And to me, they played with more passion than we did tonight.
Berube stated that Washington played with more passion than we did tonight. The comment was delivered without hesitation. He did not qualify the statement. He did not limit it to one period or one shift. He described a difference in urgency between the two teams across the game. That assessment was supported by the final score and by Toronto's inability to respond after falling behind. When reporters asked Berube why his team lacked that urgency, he declined to explain it himself. He responded, "Ask those guys, not me." The statement redirected responsibility to the player. It marked a moment where the coach publicly placed accountability on the room rather than the bench. The Maple Leafs' power play was also addressed directly. Berube said the top unit didn't execute and couldn't make plays. Toronto had multiple opportunities with the man advantage, but failed to convert. This was notable because the power play includes the team's highest paid and most relied upon players. The lack of production was a measurable outcome, not a judgment. Berube also referenced puck battles and engagement. He said Washington won more battles and played with greater purpose. These comments followed a game in which Toronto struggled to maintain offensive zone time and allowed Washington to control transitions through the neutral zone. Players echoed parts of the message afterward. Austin Matthews said the team made it really easy on them. William Nylander spoke about disconnection during the game. Defenseman Oliver Ekman-Larsson said Washington showed more desperation. These statements aligned with Berube's description of the effort gap. Craig Berube's remarks followed a pattern that had already been forming. In previous games, he had addressed mistakes in structure and decision-making. After a loss to Nashville, he described goals against as avoidable. He said the team needed to be cleaner with the puck. He also indicated that lineup changes were coming. Those comments were delivered calmly. The message after the Washington loss was more direct. The Maple Leafs had struggled to generate shots in several recent games. They failed to reach 30 shots on goal multiple times during that stretch. Shot totals are tracked league-wide as a basic measure of offensive activity. In the Washington game, Toronto did not sustain pressure long enough to force extended defensive shifts. Washington exited its zone with control and limited rebound chances. Berube's comments also came amid changes behind the bench earlier in the season. He was hired to replace Sheldon Keefe and brought a reputation for direct communication. His previous teams were known for physical play and structured defense. Those expectations followed him to Toronto. The comments after the shutout reflected that approach. The timing of the comments increased attention. They were delivered immediately after a shutout loss, not during a long losing streak. The Maple Leafs remained competitive in the standing, but the performance that night fell short of expectation. The contrast between position and performance made the remarks more visible. Media coverage focused on Berube's choice of words. Reports highlighted that he did not offer explanations on behalf of the players. He did not frame the loss as a learning experience. He described what occurred and identified where responsibility rested. The quotes were repeated across coverage because they were concise and unambiguous. Player comments did not contradict the coach's assessment. Matthews, Nylander, and Ekman-Larsson all referenced execution and effort. No player dismissed the criticism. The alignment between coach and players became part of the coverage in the following hours. As the team prepared for its next game, the comments remained unresolved. No changes were announced immediately. No clarifications were issued. attitude. The statement stood on their own, tied directly to the result on the ice, and they remained the last public word on a night when the Maple Leafs did not score and did not respond.
I think it's checking well. Obviously, they've got a lot of speed, a lot of skill. Special teams, their power play is good, so it's a number of things being disciplined. But I think just checking well, making sure that when those two guys are out on the ice, you're aware of where they are and just trying to get above them as much as possible.
Austin Matthews broke his silence this week. The response came after Craig Berube called out urgency and leadership following a loss. The captain's words were shared after practice, not after a game. The moment arrived as the Maple Leafs face mounting pressure in the standings. The Toronto Maple Leafs are in the middle of the 2025-26 NHL season. At this point in the schedule, the team is sitting below the playoff line. Wins have been hard to stack. Losses have added pressure. Every game now has more weight. This is the setting where head coach Craig Berube addressed the team's leadership in public. After a loss to the Edmonton Oilers, Berube spoke to reporters. He said the team needed more urgency. He said the leadership group had to take control, especially late in games. His comments were direct. They were not about one play. They were about how the team performs when games are close. The loss to Edmonton ended 6-3. The Oilers scored key goals late. Toronto did not push back enough in those moments. After the game, Berube made it clear that this could not continue. He said leaders must drive the team forward when the pressure is highest. For 2 days after that loss, the team's top players did not speak publicly. Austin Matthews did not speak after the game. John Tavares did not either. That silence stood out. The focus stayed on Berube's comments. Then, after a practice session, Austin Matthews spoke. Matthews is the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. At the time of these comments, he had 13 goals and 8 assists in 26 games. That pace is lower than his usual scoring rate. His performance, like the team's results, has been under attention. When Matthews spoke, he addressed the coach's comments directly. He said, we can all be better. The last 2 games, it's frustrating. He added that responsibility falls on the leaders to raise the level of play. These were his first public comments since Berube challenged the leadership group. Matthews did not deny the coach's message. He did not shift blame. He focused on accountability. Matthews also talked about close games. He said leaders must keep grinding. He said they must continue doing what made the team successful earlier in games. His comments stayed general. He did not point to a single player or moment. Berube's earlier comments had focused on urgency late in games. He said the Leafs were not playing with enough intensity when it mattered most. He said leadership needed to show up in those moments. Matthews' response matched that focus. He said leaders must handle tough situations. He said effort must stay high, even when games tighten. Berube's comments after that game were not emotional. They were measured. He said urgency was missing. He said leadership had to lead. Matthews did not speak immediately after the loss. His response came later, after practice. That timing gave his words more weight. They were not rushed. They were prepared. Matthews did not argue with the coach's message. He did not push back. He said everyone could be better. He said leaders had to take responsibility. At this stage of the season, the Maple Leafs are fighting for position. Every point matters. Every mistake is noticed. Coaching decisions are watched closely. Player responses matter even more. Matthews' comments showed awareness of the situation. He acknowledged frustration. He acknowledged pressure. He acknowledged leadership duty. Berube's system relies on strong play late in games. He has said that urgency cannot disappear when the score is close. He has said leaders must drive that urgency. The exchange between coach and captain did not include any roster changes. No players were benched because of it. No trades were announced. The focus stayed on effort and execution. Media coverage of the comments grew quickly. The Leafs' position in the standings made the situation more serious. Fans and analysts paid close attention to every word. Matthews did not use emotional language. He did not make promises. He spoke in simple terms about effort and responsibility. The coach asked for urgency. The leaders accepted responsibility. Berube has said that leadership is not only about words, it is about actions during key moments. He has pointed to third periods as a problem area. Matthews' response focused on those moments. He said leaders must keep doing the right things even when games are tight. At the time of these comments, the Leafs were preparing for another set of important games. The schedule did not ease up. Opponents remained strong. This situation did not come from one bad game. It came from a pattern. Berube saw it. He spoke about it. Matthews answered. The captain's words did not change the standings. They did not add points, but they marked a moment where leadership was publicly addressed. Berube has continued to stress urgency in later media sessions. He has repeated the need for consistent effort. Matthews' comments remain one of the clearest responses from a Leafs leader during this stretch. He spoke after practice. He spoke calmly. He spoke directly. The season continues. The pressure remains. The exchange between coach and captain now sits as part of the team's ongoing story.
Kenzie, listen, I bet you Hap fans are pretty excited, just as excited as Leaf fans, by the fact that this storied rivalry has now been rekindled in the 2 games they face each other in the preseason.
This rivalry did not cool down. It exploded. One game turned into a warning. One shootout changed the mood. When the final puck crossed the line, the scoreboard was not the loudest thing in the building. The result reshaped this rivalry in a way few expected, and the reaction did not stop at the final horn. The Montreal Canadiens and the Toronto Maple Leafs met again in a rivalry that has existed since the earliest days of the NHL. Their most recent matchup ended with Montreal defeating Toronto 2-1 in a shootout at Scotiabank Arena. The game remained tied through regulation and overtime before Alexandre Texier scored the deciding goal in the shootout. Cole Caulfield also scored for Montreal in regulation. Scott Laughton scored the only goal for Toronto. Toronto entered the game carrying momentum. The Maple Leafs had won 3 straight games before facing Montreal. That stretch included a 5-1 win over the Carolina Hurricanes. They also completed a 4-2 road trip before returning home for the rivalry matchup. Despite that run, Toronto was unable to close the game against Montreal. Dennis Hildeby started in goal for Toronto and made 33 saves. He faced consistent pressure throughout the game. On the other end, Montreal goaltender Jacob Dobes made 22 saves across regulation and overtime. Both teams generated chances, but neither was able to break the tie before the shootout. The shootout became the deciding factor. Texier scored the lone shootout goal. Caulfield also converted his attempt. Toronto failed to score in the shootout, ending the game. With the win, Montreal improved its record to 15-9-3. Toronto fell to 13-11-4. This was not the first time Montreal had the upper hand this season. Earlier in the year, the Canadiens defeated the Maple Leafs 5-2 at the Bell Center. That win ended a 5-game losing streak for Montreal at the time. Across those 2 meetings, Montreal has outscored Toronto 7-4. The rivalry between these teams dates back to December 26, 1917. Since then, they have faced each other more than 850 times in regular season and playoff games. They have met in 16 playoff series and 5 Stanley Cup finals. The last time they met in the final was in 1967. Cole Caulfield's goal against Toronto extended his point streak to 10 games. His consistency has played a role in Montreal's recent results. For Toronto, Scott Laughton's goal briefly tied the game, but the team could not build on it. Both teams will meet again later in the season. The standings remain close, the rivalry remains active, and the latest result has added new tension to a matchup that has never needed help staying relevant. The latest result did not exist in isolation. It added to a growing pattern between these 2 teams this season. Montreal has now won both meetings against Toronto. One came by a 5-2 score at the Bell Center. The other came by shootout in Toronto. Across those games, Montreal has controlled key moments, while Toronto has struggled to finish. Craig Berube addressed the team's play leading into the matchup. He said the Leafs had improved from the start of the trip to now, and pointed to puck movement and effort level. Those comments came before facing Montreal. After the game, the results showed that improvement did not translate into a win against a familiar opponent. Montreal's performance followed a recent turnaround. That win snapped a slump and showed increased production from the lineup. Against Toronto, Montreal carried that same structure. They limited goals against and forced the game into a controlled finish. Cole Caulfield's scoring run continued. His goal against Toronto extended his point streak to 10 games. Jacob Dobes delivered a steady performance in goal, stopping 22 shots before the shootout. Montreal relied on execution rather than volume. Historically, these games carry weight beyond the standing. Montreal and Toronto are 2 of the NHL's original 6 teams. They have played more games against each other than almost any other matchup in league history. Montreal holds the edge in total total wins across regular season and playoffs. Toronto's last Stanley Cup final meeting with Montreal came in 1967. This season's meetings have reinforced that history. Montreal has taken 4 of a possible 4 points against Toronto so far. The margins have been narrow, but the outcomes have been clear. Both teams remain in the playoff picture. Both will meet again later in the season. The standings are close. The rivalry is active. And after these results, the pressure has shifted forward, not backward.
The last 2 games, it's frustrating. You go into a game against San Jose, you got the lead, and then, the third period wasn't very good. And then obviously on Saturday, I think we're in a position where the game's right there. It's 3-2, bad break on the third goal, but I just think that the third periods we came out and we were just really flat and didn't have enough energy and just kind of let the game get out of hand.
Austin Matthews broke his silence as the Maple Leafs slid into a slump. December delivered tight losses, late goals against, and growing attention. The captain's words arrived as Toronto searched for steadier results. December 2025 marked a difficult period for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Over several games, the team recorded losses that followed similar patterns. Games remained close. Scoring chances were present. Final results did not favor Toronto. During this stretch, Austin Matthews addressed the media. Matthews acknowledged frustration related to the team's recent play. He described the season as a grind. His comments followed games where Toronto struggled to maintain momentum. Matthews serves as the Maple Leafs captain. He leads the team in ice time among forwards and remains a central part of the team's offense. His comments came as Toronto's scoring pace slowed compared to earlier games in the season. In a recent overtime loss, the Maple Leafs were defeated 3-2 after allowing a late goal in regulation. Toronto had maintained a narrow lead earlier in the game. The opposing team tied the game in the third period before scoring in overtime. In another game during this stretch, Toronto lost after allowing goals late in the third period. The Maple Leafs entered the final period within 1 goal, but did not score again. The loss added to a short run of uneven results. Matthews spoke after these games and addressed the overall performance. He noted that the team needed to manage games better during critical moments. His statements focused on consistency and execution rather than individual play. Earlier in the season, Matthews missed time due to an upper body issue. Team management later confirmed that he returned without restrictions. Since returning, Matthews continued to play heavy minutes and remained active in all situations. Despite the team slump, Matthews continued to generate scoring chances. He recorded goals and assists during the same period the team struggled to win games. His individual production remained near the top of the team leaderboard. Head coach Craig Berube also addressed the team's performance. He stated that the Maple Leafs needed more than small improvements. His comments followed close losses and focused on accountability across the lineup. Berube's remarks placed attention on the team's core group. Matthews, as captain, was part of that group. The comments came while the team remained within playoff position range. General manager Brad Treliving also spoke publicly during this stretch. He accepted responsibility for the team's slow progress. He confirmed confidence in the coaching staff and did not announce immediate roster changes. Treliving's comments came as the NHL trade season opened. Teams across the league began exploring roster options. Toronto was reported to be monitoring the market while continuing to evaluate its current lineup. Matthews' comments did not reference any specific teammate. He focused on team play and overall execution. He stated that long seasons require steady effort and attention to detail across all lines. The Maple Leafs' record during this period reflected several overtime and 1-goal losses. These results kept the team close in the standings while limiting upward movement. Matthews continued to wear the captain's C and address media availability following games. His tone remained measured. His focus stayed on performance rather than results alone. Toronto's schedule during December included multiple road games and tight turnarounds. These conditions added to the difficulty of maintaining consistency night after night. As the season moved forward, the Maple Leafs remained active in the playoff race. Team leadership continued to speak publicly following games, acknowledging challenges without announcing major changes. The team's next stretch of games followed shortly after Matthews' comments. Roster health, execution, and scoring efficiency remained tracked through official game reports. Matthews' statements became part of the broader discussion around Toronto's mid-season form. His comments aligned with remarks from coaching and management during the same time period. Toronto continued to practice with adjusted lines. No long-term lineup decisions were announced during this stretch. The Maple Leafs remained one of the league's most closely followed teams. Performance, leadership comments, and results continued to be documented through official league records. As December progressed, the team focused on upcoming games while maintaining position in the standings. Matthews continued to lead the team on the ice while addressing results off the ice.
Well, it definitely does give the team confidence for sure, and knowing that he's back there doing his job above and beyond, making the saves and giving us an opportunity to win a game. Kind of like just rubs, it just goes down the team and gives you more confidence.